Hello, and welcome to Montauk Energy's Construction Safety Orientation Module. Montauk is a fully integrated renewable energy company specializing in the management, recovery, and conversion of biogas into renewable energy. Our well field and operations technicians optimize landfill gas collection systems to effectively eliminate sources of surface pollution and odors. Due to the nature of our operations, it is imperative that you undergo this safety orientation in order to familiarize yourself with our safety program and initiatives. At Montauk, safety is our first priority, and we expect all contractors to exemplify our commitment to safety in all business operations and activities while on site. The safety orientation module will discuss the general Montauk health and safety rules and procedures to be followed while engaged in construction-related activities at any Montauk location. Montauk Energy is committed to ensuring our business operations are conducted in a manner that sustains the environment and protects the health and safety of our employees and contractors. Montauk and its contractors will comply with all applicable state and federal safety requirements while maintaining standards that equal or exceed the best practices in the industry. We believe a strong health and safety program removes or reduces the risk to health, safety, and the welfare of all employees, contractors, and visitors. Montauk's EHS program is based on these 8 principles: accident prevention, prevention of pollution and resource conservation, risk assessment, legislative and regulatory compliance, training and education, security and emergency preparedness, communication, and continuous improvement. While on site, contractors must be cognizant of the following. Landfill gas is highly flammable, and areas where gas is present in raw or processed forms are extremely hazardous. Smoking is only permitted at the discretion of the facility manager and then only in designated areas. Break and sanitary facilities will be provided for contractors, and these areas must be kept clean at all times. All employees are expected to work according to the directions of the project manager and their supervisor. All employees are directed to stop any unsafe work act and report unsafe working conditions immediately. Contractors and guests may not leave the project site or wander into the facility or into the landfill property without prior authorization. In general, Montauk expects each contracting company to implement training initiatives as thorough as Montauk's own intensive training program. Construction teams performing any scope of work must be able to provide documented safety training records at Montauk's request. Construction teams must also perform work safety meetings at the initiation of the project and when scope of work changes and if an incident occurs. Please be aware that all contractors must submit copies of the roster and topics covering in the meeting to the site manager upon request. Prohibited activities. At Montauk facilities, the following items are prohibited: alcoholic beverages, illegal or illicit drugs, firearms and ammunition, explosives, fireworks and blasting caps, switchblades, and inappropriately large knives. Additionally, workers may not use headsets while working. All sites are zero tolerance for alcohol and drugs, and except where otherwise permitted, photographs, digital images, and recordings are prohibited while on site at Montauk sites. Any and all illegal activity will be promptly reported to the proper authorities for investigation and prosecution. It is vital to establish root cause for any accident, however minor, so that future incidents may be prevented. All accidents, near misses, and/or incidents involving equipment or personnel, no matter how slight, must be reported to the facility manager immediately. If a vehicle or equipment accident occurs, vehicles shall not be moved unless the vehicle's position poses an immediate danger to life and health. All accidents, injuries, and near misses require an investigation and a complete report. Incidents must be reported to the corporate office within 24 hours. Written reports must utilize the appropriate Montauk Energy forms. Please speak with the Montauk facility manager to obtain copies of Montauk documents. While on site, contracting companies are required to have their own first aid equipment and supplies. They must also have at least one personnel trained in first aid and CPR on the project site at all times while work is being performed. Any deviation from this requirement must be communicated to the project or facility manager prior to beginning project work. If serious injury does occur, the injured employee must be taken directly to the nearest medical facility. Alert first responders for all serious emergencies and post a guide to direct responders to the injured employee's location. While performing project work at any Montauk location, personal protective equipment or PPE that conforms to the Montauk PPE assessment is required. In general, the following PPE is required at our sites. Hard hats, generally type 1 in category E. Safety glasses, Z87 lenses and side shields if prescription. Hearing protection when sound pressure exceeds 85 decibels. Flame-resistant clothing while in the plant and well-filled areas. Arc-resistant clothing while performing any electrical work. High-visibility clothing in construction and project sites and well-filled areas. Gloves, and safety-toed boots. Contractors are required to provide the necessary PPE to their employees, and failure to do so while on site may result in removal from the site. Fall protection, respiratory protection, gas detection, electrical work, and/or welding and allied processes PPE may also be required for job-specific tasks. Only self-retracting lifeline SLR devices are permitted for use on site. Contractors must have proof of a compliant respiratory protection program in the event that it is utilized, and contractors must provide their employees with NEOSH-approved respiratory protection. In order to maintain the best chemical safety and spill prevention practices, the following procedures must be followed. All chemicals and materials are to be handled according to the provided safety data sheet and common best work practices for ventilation, fire control, PPE, respiratory protection, and first aid. All relevant PPE and work controls must be in place for chemical work. Contractors are responsible for outfitting their own employees with the necessary safety plan and equipment. Hazardous materials which pose a chemical or flammability threat must be used under a work permit. Chemicals are to be stored, handled, and transported according to the SDF, DOT, and EPA specifications. In the event of a spill, the contractor must immediately contain the spill in accordance with the contractor's spill plan. Spills caused by a contractor are the responsibility of the contractor and will be mitigated at the contractor's expense. The contractor is responsible for all cleanup, hazardous waste disposal, and spill mitigation efforts. In the event of an environmental contamination issue, the Montauk Energy Environmental Department is to be notified immediately. There are a number of confined spaces located on Montauk's plant facilities. Confined spaces are large enough and engineered in a manner that allows an employee's body to enter and perform assigned work, but with limited or restricted means for entry and exit. They are not designed for continuous employee occupancy. Examples of a confined space include storage tanks, in-ground vaults, vessels, manholes, excavations, or pits. Prior to any entry into a confined space, the facility manager must be notified and approve the entry. A work permit is then required for any confined space entry activity. Contractors are responsible for supplying all confined space programming, and the facility manager may terminate or suspend that confined space work at his discretion if he feels the contractor is not working in a safe manner. Contractors will work in confined spaces and permit required confined spaces in accordance with OSHA regulations without exception. The following procedures must be followed. Obtain all relevant and available information regarding permit space hazards and entry operations from Montauk Energy. Review the confined space program with Montauk Energy and identify confined space entry supervisors. Equip all permitted employees with the proper PPE, including respiratory protection. Coordinate all entry, exit, and rescue operations with Montauk Energy. Inform Montauk Energy of any hazards confronted or created in permit spaces. Control site confined spaces access at all times when the confined space is open. Mitigate any hazards that exist within the confined space and provide documentation of mitigating actions upon request and within the work permit. Debrief the facility manager on any progress of confined space activities at least daily and at the facility manager's request. Keep in mind that all trenching and excavation entries are a form of confined space entries. They must also have a valid work permit associated with them and have continuous air sampling. All underground utilities must be located and marked prior to the start of work. Excavations and trenching must be associated with a valid work permit. Additionally, the walls and faces of excavations and trenches must be guarded by shoring or bench per OSHA regulations. Don't forget to provide an adequate barricade and identify each excavation or trench as a safety hazard. All trench work involving cutting or welding operations must be approved by the project manager and accompanied by a safe work permit. Fall protection is required whenever an employee is working 6 feet or more above the lower level. If an employee is working on a scaffold, the height requirement for fall protection is 10 feet. This protection is usually provided by a built-in guardrail. Fall protection must be supplied by the contractor. A fall protection program must be established by the contractor, and contracted employees must have documented training on PFASs or personal fall arrest systems. Fall protection systems consist of a few standard parts and devices, including body harnesses, lanyards, retractable lifelines, connection devices, anchorage points, and anchorage devices. Failure to use fall protection when required will result in site expulsion. Work from a man basket, JLG, or scaffolding without railings requires fall protection. To reiterate, Montauk energy facilities contain raw or processed landfill gas whose main constituent is methane. Methane is a highly flammable and easily ignitable gas even in small quantities and concentrations. Facility managers have full discretion on allowing, suspending, or canceling all hot work activities. A hot work permit must be issued by the contractor prior to the use of any welding, cutting, burning, grinding, or other flame and spark producing equipment. Hot work will not be performed on any unpurged piece of equipment. Hot taps are not permitted. Fire extinguishers must be provided by the contractor and kept within 10 feet of the work area. Welding and allied work tasks will be performed in accordance with OSHA and AWS regulations and best practices. While performing contract work at Montauk facilities, contractors may utilize the control of hazardous energy, otherwise known as Lockout Tagout procedures. Lockout Tagout is a basic set of steps used to control hazardous energy during the servicing or maintenance of machines and equipment. LOTO helps prevent the unexpected startup or release of stored energy that could otherwise result in serious injury or death to workers. LOTO and a safe work permit is required for any work on any system, and all contractors must possess their own LOTO programs, supply their own LOTO equipment, and perform LOTO processes according to the Montauk Energy Work Permits. The contractor's LOTO program must be reviewed and approved by a Montauk facility manager. All employees working on the task must participate in the LOTO process. Failure to correctly utilize LOTO and work permits will result in removal from the site. The last topic we'll cover is complacent behavior. Complacent behavior while at work is one of the leading causes of workplace incidents and injuries. Complacency puts all employees in danger through unsafe or poorly planned actions. Complacent behavior, including disregard for Montauk safety and health practices, will not be tolerated. All contractors and guests are expected to prioritize their personal safety and the safety of others. Stop all unsafe work practices when you see them. Thank you for joining me for the Safety Orientation module here at Montauk. Please contact your site representative, corporate representative, or Montauk facility manager for more information, any questions, or concerns. Thank you.